Hi everyone, this is Sheryl Iott. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Rather than breaking down a particular piece or passage of a piece and addressing the practice strategies, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the general principles of Gestalt organization that we use when reading and processing music. And these principles apply even for kind of mid-level beginners. It just reflects the way that our brain works. So I am going to turn off this camera and turn on my little set of handouts here. So what you see there, for most of you, is not a series of various arcs of each of the colors, but rather you see 5 circles overlapping. And this is the principle of simplicity, where we're trying to find the simplest explanation for the picture that we're seeing. So the equivalent of that in music would be when we see a pattern like this is from the Clementi Sonatina Opus 36, number 1. Rather than dealing with, 25 or 30 notes there, we actually chunk them into simple and recognizable patterns. So we have a C major triad in second inversion. We have a C major pentascale. And then we have a G major pentascale, and at the left hand, we actually have another C major pentascale. So that is really more like 4 things instead of 25 or 30 things. So that's a good example of what we call simplicity. The next principle is the principle of similarity, where we group things based on our perceived relationships between the various objects. So most of us will see the set of circles on the left as being similar, even though the third column is a different color. We would probably group those together. And again, proximity plays a little bit of a role in that grouping, but those we see together. In the next box, the set of figures in the middle, we probably see 5 circles that make a bit of like a 7 shape and 4 squares that go together. And in the next set of figures, we probably group them in rows. So the first row they're all gray figures. The second row is all pink figures, and the third row is all purple or black figures. So we're grouping based on what seems to be similar. In music, we do the same thing. So this pattern repeats again in the next line. These octaves repeat. This is the same in both hands and in both lines. So again, those whole 8 measures can be reduced to 3 things and a couple little tiny details when we're looking at things in terms of similarity. We also use the principle of proximity. So we see 3 columns of 4 circles. Then we see 2 columns of 4 circles. And then we see 2 columns of 5 circles and a pentagon, and we group those because of how the space is distributed. So we don't see those dark blue shapes as 2 separate columns because they're close to each other. And proximity in music is where we're looking at a pattern and we're really noticing basically what note is closest to it in time and space. So this is often the first thing to happen and also often the least helpful. So we're reading this and we have to read a third and a third and a fourth and a third and a sixth and a fourth and a third, etc. And it's a lot of detail and it's overwhelming. So more helpful than proximity usually is what we call good continuation. So most of you look at this image and you see a triangle made up of a solid line with 3 circles around it, and then a white triangle superimposed over the top of those 4 figures. You probably don't see 3 angles and 3 Pac-Men, for example. So this is our line. Our eye fills in the lines and fills in what's missing. So taking that same example from the Bach Prelude, rather than dealing with each interval individually, we kind of stack that first chord and then we track how the voices move. So the red voice stays the same, the purple voice moves down, the orange voice moves up, the green voice moves up, and the blue voice moves up. So we evolve from this chord to this chord. And we can keep practicing the whole piece like that really tracking the continuation of each individual voice. And this will make for much more cohesive learning on the part of us and our students. And these principles are important because our brain wants to organize them this way. So if we make the conscious effort to practice and investigate those patterns, then we're going to make that work much easier and much shorter. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon.